Thank you. Yeah, it's exactly what we're trying to accomplish, and I think it's a complimentary service. Without Lego being there, we are nothing. So why not make it that way from that end?
Just like my life.
Oh,
Just kidding.
That's a deep
Just kidding.
question right there. I don't know.
I think
We don't
Jim's
have
Jr.
time to
might
go
have
into
something to
that.
say about that.
Wes, help him out, man. I think he needs to have a chat or something.
Just kidding. Hello, bricks, chicks, and minifigures. You are listening to AFOLs Welcome, where we talk about all things Lego from the perspective of two adult collectors. We're your co-host. I'm Wes.
No, let's keep pressing. Let's go.
I'm Grinch.
And I'm West.
And today we are joined by Greg Avola, who is the founder of Bricked. Bricked is a social media application surrounded by sharing, discovering, and organizing your sets. But before we get to that discussion, let's talk, West. What did you build this week?
Oh, Grinch. This week I bit the bullet despite
Or did the
knowing-
bullet bite you?
There you go. Might give you a hint at what I'm building this week. Despite moving here in a few months and having to eventually pack this thing up, I have
So
all the
worth
rest of my Lego more or less packed. I started on the El Dorado Fortress, and boy, oh boy, it's been a good time so far.
Which set?
The El Dorado Fortress.
The El Dorado.
The pirate
Oh, the pirate fort set.
pirate fort set. Yes.
The pirate thing.
No, it's been a lot of fun. You know, this one specifically spoke to me because it's such a faithful recreation of the original set, much like
Yeah.
the Galactic Explorer was, which is own it, built it. I own it. Still haven't built it, but I think the Pirates theme for me personally was one that I was more excited to re-engage with. Not that we necessarily had any pirate Legos as kiddos or Lego as kiddos, but just, you know, we had a few of those base plates growing up.
Mm-hmm.
We definitely had it in the larger collection that we were given to some extent, but it's just such a much like the Galaxy Explorer, and to use the analogy you used when we talked with the Brick Architect, right? This is the 4K edition of this
Right.
set, and just seeing the way that they've incorporated the details that were either printed on or, you know, were those large 5x1 palisade pieces that they used for castle sets, and in this case used for kind of the wall of this. I mean, it's kind of built up like a castle, so it's very similar, right? Like they've done it now all in bricks and plates, and just that level of detail is just incredible. To see the base plate basically turned into, you know, bricks is really, really awesome. The low point of this so far has been the boat, the little ship that's been included, and I talked to you about that already, kind of pre-recording, but the bow on it just in my mind leaves a little bit to be desired. The rest of it looks great. It's just the bow is kind of awkward in the way it was put together, which is no shame on the designer. I can see what they were trying to do, but I think maybe there's a more decorative way or kind of way to build that up where it just looks a little bit more polished. But the rest of the set is just chef's kiss, awesome build. So
Mm-hmm.
it's excusable in my book because it's definitely not the centerpiece for what we're building. So yeah.
One of the features, dare I say underrated, because there's no real way to rate that, although I should go check it out on Bricked app because maybe there is a good way to claim this or not, so it's not purely anecdotal, is, in my opinion, one of the best features is the fact that the actual fort, right, it can connect so that it's all squared up, perfectly enclosed, or you can actually connect it in a different manner so that the sides of it makes it more long, kind of like how you could open up the 90th anniversary castle set and it just made the display look very different than when it was enclosed. It also made it more usable. This you could actually, and it didn't seamlessly open up like the 90th. You actually had to like just take it apart, but it just uses a regular clip piece, and you can just clip on the sides differently to make it a more kind of extended, longer fort, which just totally changes how it looks. I mean, it looks like a totally different set. And for the people who like to buy multiple sets, it gives you a reason to even buy another set and modify it and make it bigger. But I really like that feature. I don't know if you've quite gotten there with the build experience yet, but it's obviously you have to build the entire thing first before that pays off. But very, very, I like that. Do that. Do more of that, please.
Well, and it's great because like if you're building it for like a shelf display that doesn't have a lot of depth, right? Something like that makes it really easy to display. To your point too, right? You could expand it. So in some cases, this is truly a modular from that perspective. But you can also rearrange it. And so again, very modular in the way it's put together. I've just created the first kind of corner. So it's the part with the ramp up to the main area, the opening gate, and then kind of, it's sort of an L in shape right now. And that's all I've done at the moment. I just opened up bag 6, which is there's kind of another turret, and by turret I mean kind of like a little tower that you build, and it's a little higher up off the ground, so it's a smaller section, but I think there's another tree in it too. So very excited to see where that goes.
So I was at a work thing all week, which was fun. I didn't get to build that much, but I did before I left. I built the Lego Ideas Sonic set. Oh. And I'm not a huge fan of the IP. I mean, I don't dislike the IP per se. I'm just not like a super fan, or I don't have a ton of fandom for it. But what I had noticed in my collection, we've talked about curating our collections, is I noticed I was getting a nice little video game kind of collection set up, right? With Fortnite Battle Bus, the Overwatch sets. I've actually played Overwatch, so I've got that whole series, and then the Horizon Tall Neck, right? And with all the Mario stuff that's come out, it really just a nice kind of video game Lego collection growing, which is something we really didn't have even 5 years ago, right? So I was like, I should get the Ideas Sonic set, because I just wanted one Sonic set, and to me it was really the perfect set to kind of just, if I could add one set to kind of represent Sonic, what would it be? And for me, it was the Idea set. It was the one that kind of kicked it all off anyways. I really like how the designer used the little kind of 2x2 plates or 1x1 plates to stack 2 of them on top of each other to kind of just represent smaller than a brick, and get some kind of 8-bit graphic detail built in sort of thing. So I enjoyed the set. It was a lot less painful building that than I thought it would be, because that set came out before the 1x2 plate tall set, or 1x2 brick came out. So instead of putting 2 1x1 plates on top of each other, you could have just used that. So when I saw that, I was like, oh, that's going to be really painful. But it's done in such a way where it's kind of like you do a little bit of that, you move on to the top of it, you build something else, and then you do a little bit more of it, a little bit more of it, a little bit more of it, so on. So it's not just all at once.
And that's the one that's done in like the brown and light brown, so that you get like the color gradation of like the dirt, right? So it looked really good on the set, and it definitely creates that effect. But I also, not to sort of I think it's really wise that you're like, I don't need to collect the entire Sonic collection. I can just get kind of the definitive, is maybe not the right word, but like the one set that kind of stands.
I looked at it as the definitive. Yeah.
And I think that's really wise, because like I could see maybe Grinch from a few years ago probably wanting to go buy the entire collection. So I think that's some growth, my dude.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. God, I'm so mature.
So mature.
I mean, you can only be mature if you say mature, right? If you say mature, it's like, come on, dude. Yeah. All right. So I did want to mention real quick before we move on to exciting Lego news. We are taking our break next week.
For real.
For realsy this time, unless there's a bigger or more equivalent announcement of Pokemon, which I
What
don't
could be
know what
bigger?
that could be.
All the set names and pictures are revealed.
They revealed it a year early. No,
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, unless like Lego Avatar, maybe.
I don't know if that would even move the needle that much, to be frank. Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless both of us simultaneously got hired by Lego and we had to end the podcast because we're now Lego employees.
True. But we probably won't. So let's move on to some.
Haven't seen anything in my inbox yet.
I'm waiting.
Yep. Lego, we're here.
Hello. All right. Let's go ahead and move on to some news. Exciting Lego news. All right, Wes, do you want to give us the rundown for the news this week?
So, man, this is let's just hit it real quick and then we can chat on it in more detail. But first and foremost, we got the Lord of the Rings, the Shire set finally officially revealed. We also got news that Lego Lord of the Rings is coming to the minifigure factory, which is exciting. And then the Lego Speed Champions Too Fast, Too Furious Honda S2000 was officially announced. So, Grinch, let's chat on the Oliphant in the room, the Lego Shire set formally revealed. I say finally because we've known about it for a while. We've seen images for a while. The one thing I hadn't seen up to this point was the back of it, right? So I'd seen a lot of the front. And so I think just this week is when we started to see some of the box art and get the back of it. But yeah, Lego formally revealed it. I mean, wow. What are your thoughts?
I have the hottest of hot takes.
Yeah, go for it.
And I know we talked about this a little bit, and it's not that. I am more excited about the gift with purchase than the set. And
Really?
Here's why. People have been railing on this gift with purchase too, which is why this is a hot take. Everyone's like, cool. I don't have to buy this day one. Like literally, I mean, like I can't, I won't say everybody has said that, but I kind of scroll through different comments and stuff. And a lot of the comments have been,
I mean, we've talked about kind of the toxicity of the gift with purchase.
Apparently not. It's a good thing. It's a bad thing when you really want it, and it's not. It's a bad thing when you don't want the gift with purchase, right?
Yeah,
so,
right. Lego fans.
I'm excited about the gift with purchase because it's a scene we'll never get in a set form, right? We'll never get that scene.
And I think that again going back to our conversation is actually the perfect reason to make a gift with purchase, because it's something that you're not gonna get, or not even that you're not gonna get, but like that Lego doesn't really have any intention of building out or possibility, right? Going back to the Barad-dûr set and getting the Warg Rider, or not the Warg Rider, but the
Nazgul
Rider, right? Like that could be a Lego set eventually. We could see a Pelennor Plains.
It should have come with Barad-dûr, to be honest. Like it should have just been attached to the side of Barad-dûr.
Or if we ever get some sort of version of Minas Tirith, right? Like I would expect to see a Nazgul incorporated into that in some meaningful way, because we still have not. Have we ever gotten an Éowyn minifigure?
Nope.
Probably was there one in Helm's Deep?
Nope.
So I mean, a definitive scene with Éowyn would be her killing the Witch King, right? So with that saying, "I am no man," which for any Lord of the Rings purists out there, I believe was actually part of the original text. I don't think that was like a 2000s retake or remake on.
Well, for anybody like screaming at their phone right now, what they meant, yes, we know, is like no, like mankind, person of mankind can kill me, and then the "I am no man, I'm a woman" kind of like, I think that was added.
Are you sure? I think she said that in the book, but we can look this up later. Point is, I think it actually was a very powerful scene in the early 2000s, and Lord of the Rings is very often criticized. I don't know if you've ever seen the like clips of, are you familiar with the Bechdel test, Grinch?
Yes.
So for the listeners who are not, this is how you can tell if like a movie is not even like feminist, but if it just kind of promotes its female characters, and the Bechdel test is where you have to have a movie where two female characters talk to each other about something other than a man. And the Lord of the Rings kind of famously doesn't pass the Bechdel test. And I think it was a very hilarious scene where they're like the only scene in the Lord of the Rings where two female characters like talk to each other, and it's the scene when they're evacuating from Rohan, and it's the little girl talking to the old lady, and she's like, "Where's Mama?" and that's like the end, and so they like cut to the end credits, and it cracks me up every single time. But anyways,
I stand corrected. The line in the book is "Begone, fell Dwimer Lark, Lord of Karen, leave the dead in peace." Blah 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 blah. No, he says, "No living man may hinder me, but no living man I am. You look upon a woman, Eowyn I am, Aemon's daughter. You stand between me and my lordkin. Begone, if you not deathless, for living or dark undead, I will smite you if you touch him." So it's actually much cooler in the book.
Fair enough. But it does get across the point. So anyways, back to Lego.
And back to Lego. So, and this is where the redos or the Lord of the Rings and modern Lord of the Rings sets have not let me down yet, like this set has, is because as a collector of all the sets,
Man,
right?
That's a harsh take.
As a collector of all the sets, I think the original Hobbit hole is better.
Really?
Because it does. Technically, it's not. Right? It's obviously much more modern, much more detailed. But we talked about this before the show. When Lego does these sets where it's like, here's the main part of the build. Oh, it's $270. Price to part ratio is not the best. I can get over that. But when it's like, here's the main part of the build. Oh, and by the way, 20% of the part budget went into all these small side builds that don't really add much. When they have all the small side builds, it makes it feel, I don't know, like more of a kid set to me in general, less of like a, definitive edition. And then to then look at just
series.
Yeah, then to just look at the Shires. I mean, that was why everybody hated Hoth, right? Like it wasn't a Echo base. It was like a bunch of battle packs. And like this feels like a redo of the Hobbit hole with a couple of side gift with purchases that they included. But when you look at it that way, all of a sudden this set starts to feel incredibly overpriced for that reason.
Yeah, I will say I think if Lego was going to explore a wave of Lord of the Rings sets again, more so than just one or two sets every year, as they seem to be doing, I would argue that like the Gandalf and his cart, right? And then Bilbo's birthday party could have been three, and then the Shire could have been three distinct sets.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think that would have been wonderful, right? And you and I have talked about sort of the challenge with the Lego theme at the moment is we don't have any sets that are like sub $20, where like I think Gandalf pulling his cart, much like I believe that was its own standalone set from the original Lord of the Rings wave, would be a perfect set all on its own. Because it's cheap, it's easy to get, right? Like that's one that you could buy and put at your desk at work, not feel too bad about it. It's a great stocking stuffer for the holidays. It's, it's an easy set to like buy and engage with without having to go spend almost $300 on the Shire. So, I hear you. I do think this is far and above, way better than the original version of the set. I have the original version. You sold me a used copy that you had gotten.
Look, I bought it for you, and you paid me back.
Fair enough.
To correct the record, I don't sell my brother Lego sets.
Yeah, I mean, you weren't like making a profit off of it. But, like,
I might have marked it up 500%, but I didn't sell it. I just lied that that's how much I bought it for.
The original Shire set is a lot of fun. It's based off of The Hobbit, which I think was a bit of a miss. This one is based off the Fellowship of the Ring, which I think is really, for the, wouldn't say even purist, right? But like for most of us adult and
Uh,
modern Lord of the Rings fan is where we were
We're
introduced to
there,
it.
brother. Yep.
So I do think this is a wonderful, wonderful set. Your fair point that it is a little overpriced. So
I just take that piece count, make it maybe a little bit bigger, right? Because otherwise it does just feel like an updated version of it. I'm still
yeah.
gonna get it. I still think it's wonderful. Like I said, technically it's much better. Much
And
better.
as someone who hasn't bitten the bullet on some of the other Lord of the Rings sets, just because of their sheer size, which is not to discredit, I don't know what I would do with them at the moment. Because for me, they would just be dust collectors.
Mhm.
This one does feel like one that I will get because it's a little smaller, and getting the hobbits in this form I think is really fun. I think it's like wonderful that we get Rosie, in Lego form. Like we've never gotten, other than like the hobbits and Bilbo, like we haven't really gotten. We get the Proud Feet in it too. It's just I think it's a lot of fun in the inclusions and again, right? Like I don't know about you, but like this week I was inspired. So at work I was listening to a lot of Lord of the Rings soundtrack music on repeat. It's springtime. I mentioned this to someone in my office. I'm like, I feel like the spring is kind of Lord of the Rings season because it just feels green and it reminds me of the Shire. So hearing that music combined with spring just kind of makes sense in my mind. So yeah, I don't know. This is a fun one. I'm excited for it too.
For me, the winner is. I don't know why. I
Like
think
the
it's because all
holidays
the
at Christmas.
extendeds. Yeah, all the extendeds came out around holidays, so
They
it's
did
like always
right
like
at
buying
the
it
end
and
of
watching it.
mid-December. Yeah, right before the holiday break. So
because the movie would come out like 6 months after the release, and then a full year after the theatrical release, the extended would come out, which was always in the winter. So
well, Grinch, I want to. Anything else about Lord of the Rings before we kind of press to? I do want to chat Speed Champions real quick because this is a really interesting set. Not only is it the first Too Fast, Too Furious car we've gotten, which sort of famously featured the Skyline that Paul Walker drives, which I'm sure is in the works, right? Or I'm sorry,
we already got it, bro.
we already got the Skyline.
I'm sure Lego will make it.
Oh, Grinch, it's been a week, my dude. No, it has that
I
Mitsubishi.
bet you $7,000 that at some point we get a Lego Skyline.
Oh yeah, okay. It has that Mitsubishi Lancer Evolution.
Dude, why are you Venmoing me $7,000 right now?
That like yellow one that was really, really cool.
Yeah.
I could totally see that being a set. But the S2000 is not only a really interesting car for Honda, it's still extremely sought after these days. It was kind of one of those cars that Honda built and kind of stopped. And I think if they really knew how much people would want it these days, they would have kept building it because it's, like I said, extremely sought after. They're extremely robust. This is a really great example of where the Speed Champion scale varies. This 8-wide scale, this probably should have been more of a 7-wide car to keep it kind of on scale because S2000s are, more Mazda Miata sized than what this 8-wide scale really looks like. But the one thing I just want to highlight is we're getting A-pillar printing on the windscreen. And so this is the first time that we're seeing, we had brick built A-pillars on the Mercedes G-Wagon this last go from the summertime.
So you don't think this will be a real Lego set too?
Well, it was out of the ordinary, right? But this has been a huge criticism for the Speed Champions. I mean, like the James Bond car is a really great example, the DB5, where it just really looked kind of awkward because the windscreen kind of curves around too much, where A-pillar printing would have really just made it look more realistic. I think Lego's listening to the feedback. I maybe would have hoped they would have listened to it a little sooner. But yeah, I mean, the fact that we're getting this type of printing on this car now, I think shows too how much Lego's willing to invest in this theme. I mean, if we didn't already understand that based off of the F1 collaboration this year, I think this S2000, the future is bright for Speed Champions.
One thing I'm really curious about, and I don't think I'm just looking at this wrong. Obviously, we only have these set images. And my first thought was, ooh, this is going to be a little too flat. But then I looked at the images more, and there's the wheelbase piece, right? Just the classic wheelbase piece on the front, and the classic wheelbase piece on the back. And the one on the front has one tile on top of it. The one on the back has a sloped tile on top of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if correct me if I'm wrong, is the one on the back the mud flap piece and then one brick tall? And is the one on the front the mud guard, sorry, I think I said mud flap, the mud guard, and then two brick talls?
Oh,
and
man.
if it is, my fear is gone. Because I just want to know how they did that, right? Like, that is awesome. While you're looking that up, I will say I am not disappointed we got this one at all. I believe it's the character's name is Suki, right?
Mm-hmm.
The minifigure looks really good. The car looks really good. I would have wished that we got this one. I just really want that orange Supra and hope we get that too.
That would be a great set.
I'm definitely not disappointed in this.
Of these are getting more and more detailed too, right? There's these light pink seats on it. And for the listener, I'm looking at the official Lego images, which are now up on the website. But what they did, Grinch, actually on this was they built the back mud flap one brick or one plate lower than the front, which is how they got that.
Right, but the wheels are it is diagonal then. Because
no,
if the one mud guard is lower,
right?
Because one brick lower or one brick higher, right? It's the same thing.
Yeah. I don't think there's any goofy building on that. I think it's because the doors on front of it are the sloped 2x2 tiles. I think it creates the impression that it looks like it's sloped a little bit funky, but I think that's just the case as it's built lower like that. But maybe we need to
look at the back mud flap.
Yeah.
And then there's a plate, and then there's a 1 by 2/3 slope, right? Which is 2 bricks tall. That slope piece, or 2 plates tall. Yeah. So that's 1 brick. On the front, it's only the curved up to the 2/3 brick. So that's only 2 plates tall.
Yeah.
So it's 2 plates tall on the front and 3 plates tall on the back.
Because they built it lower.
Right.
But
how did they build it lower is what I'm asking.
Oh, well, I mean, the back, it's raked, right? So if you look at it, the car is going to have like a downward slant on it. Which is awesome. Yeah. I don't think it's that new. They've done it before they've done it before is all I'll say. I think
what's interesting is, like, if you look at the tile, I think there's a 2x6 tile. That's going not all the way below, it's kind of going above the mud flap a little, or mud guard a little bit.
That's a 1x6, I believe.
1x6?
Yeah. It looks wider because of the printing or the picture. But
okay.
You know what?
I'm excited
to buy it.
I'm excited for it.
Yeah. And do that because and the minifigure.
I'm looking at the pictures and I want to know more.
Yeah. No, very excited about the build, the interior, the cool rims too that they're featuring. The wheels is really great. I mean, it's just a really great model. So, yeah, very excited.
All right. So I think that covers the news. Let's go ahead and move over to today's topic. Today's topic. All right, so as I mentioned at the top of the episode, today we are joined by Greg Avola, who is the founder of Bricked. Bricked is a social media application surrounded by sharing, discovering, and organizing your sets. Welcome to the podcast, Greg. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me. I'm super excited to be here. I'm doing really well. It's been a great week here, and excited to dig into all this great Lego content.
Let's dig right in then, huh? Shall we? So, you've built an app, super cool. It's all about Lego. So let's take a step back though, and let's get to know the designer of this app first. Greg, tell us about your Lego journey. How did you get involved in Lego in the first place?
Yeah, I mean, as a kid, I was very into Lego. Some of my early sets, I was Team Pirates back in the day. A lot of different, the Aqua set. I forget what they used to call that theme, the blue and the yellow
Aquanauts.
theme. Yeah, Aquanauts kind of thing. That was my jam. But I kind of fell out of it, like most people did when they got older. And when I was playing with Lego, and I'm dating myself here, there was no adult sets. That's all they had was more kid-related play sets. So about 2 years ago, my mother-in-law bought me the Up House as a Christmas gift, and I had not seen like Lego because I have two young kids, so I've not seen Lego in like more of the 10, 12 plus age in quite some time. And when I saw that set, I was like, oh, this is pretty cool. And I started building it. I was like, I got some free time here. I'll build this set. And 2 hours flew by, and the set was done. And it's like, oh my God, it's amazing. And these balloons on the top of the building are awesome. The inside's really cool. Lego's done a great job of like evolving the sets over time. So I immediately started looking into Lego after that. I bought the A-frame cabin shortly after that. And then that's the rest of my downfall from there, went pretty downhill quickly. But I think, Lego didn't have a lot of adult-based sets when I was a kid, and I just kind of we fell in love with them after I seen some of the larger kind of adult-based versions out there, and just got really in love with it. For me, Lego is a great escape and also a great, mental refresh for me, getting a sense to sit down and build a set from that end. So for me, it's a great community. It's a great opportunity just to relax and build things that are great. So I'm excited to be back in the Lego fold after missing it for such a long time in my life.
It's always so fun how when we hear about AFOLs who've kind of come back to the brand and back to the hobby, because it's generally like one set that kind of is like the tipping point for adult fans of Lego, where they're just like, man, I like this again.
Yeah, I felt the same way with the Up House. Like, it's not a huge build. I think it's like a 12 plus set or something like that. But like the interesting about the actual house, the inside area, the balloons on the top of it, it was like so intricate, and I was like, I couldn't put it down. And for me, that brought back a lot of the joy and memories I had with Lego as a kid. Is like setting up all the minifigs and putting them on in the way that I wanted to, and then I could align this house with the dog and all that thing. Like it felt great. I think that's where once you finish a build, you have that kind of, oh my God, I built this kind of thing, and that's what I felt throughout this whole journey. And obviously, Brick was a brainchild of that experience, and that's kind of where it all started.
And we can see from behind you that it was clearly a slippery slope. So
very slippery slope. I actually just installed these Billy bookcases, which are like the number one
classic.
Yeah, if any Lego fan has bookshelves, they're probably IKEA Billy bookshelves. But I installed these recently because I was running out of space, which is obviously a crazy thing to say 2 years into this kind of obsession. But it's been a lot of fun. I mean, I think one of the most important parts about being in the AFOL community is the community aspect. I think, when you're younger with Legos, it's like, I'm going to play with it for a little bit, but now we're collecting them, we're displaying them, we're talking with other members, we're talking about rumors, we're talking about what's coming up next, we're getting excited about the release days. That's really awesome to me. So it's a great thing to be part of this great community and really enjoy those experiences.
So I'm always curious to talk because everybody has a different AFOL story, right?
Yeah.
So West and mine were a little bit different. I think we got out of our dark age a little bit earlier than you did, but I'm always curious to ask like what your favorite theme is, especially now because there's just so much. I mean, it's just really exploded. Kind of like as you got into it, it was really exploding. So what is your favorite theme?
So it's going to be an unpopular opinion here, but my favorite theme is architecture, believe it or not, which is not really, over the last couple of years, there definitely been some bigger sets like the Notre Dame Cathedral that came out. But you can't see it behind me, but I've got another part of my room that has all my architecture sets, from the skylines to some of the earlier architecture pieces. I really like those a lot. I'm excited for some of the future ones that are coming down the line. I just finished the Trevi Fountain, which is a new release this year for the architecture piece. as a kid, I've always really big into like architecture and buildings. So I love being able to build real things in the real world and then kind of like have them on my shelf and be able to go through the process. And Lego is so great about trying to match, look and feel to what you're building. So when you're building the Statue of Liberty, besides the face issue, which I'm sure people have always talked about with that, the base of the building, the kind of structural elements there, I think it's just really cool to be able to build something you can see in the real world. So the Notre Dame Cathedral is probably one of my best builds of last year. It's such a detailed set, so affordable for the piece count too, which is pretty interesting across the board. But the way they structured that build, if you have already built it, it's like based on the various stages of how they built the Notre Dame Cathedral. So the first stage, back in the early stages,
cool.
you built the first block,
Oh.
and then you move on to the next one, which is the next stage of the building when they did the construction. And obviously with the fire recently, that's all changed from that level, but it was just a great build all around. So I'm a big fan of architecture series, so I'd like to see Lego focus on those. I'd love for them to bring back some more skylines. That'd be great. I collect them. A lot of those skylines are the ones that I can actually afford because they're pretty expensive for the ones that are retired. But that would be my theme of choice. My favorite one so far.
Well, I think you'll actually find, not only amongst Grinch and myself, kind of, we're definitely friends of the architecture theme, but we have some other people who've been on the podcast in the past who are fans of the theme. So
we had the brick architect on the podcast.
Yes.
So if you've not seen his work, it is right up your alley.
Yes, I talked to him a little recently actually about this, and we were like nerding out about the architecture stuff. So
Awesome.
It is very, I think it's one of those sets that really caters toward folks that are into building real things, like I mentioned before, which is great. But again, it's like 1 or 2 sets a year that typically they release. And I'm happy with that. As long as there's 1 or 2, that's great to see, rather than 0. So I'm happy.
Hey, there's only one modular every year.
I know,
right?
exactly. And everyone probably gives the answer to that question, the modulars, which don't get me wrong. I like modulars too, and I have a little mini city from that side. But for architecture, just something nice about building a real life thing and comparing it to your thing as well. So that's just
and such a great theme too, to see the progress that Lego designers have made over the years, right? I have
100%.
Oh my gosh, I'm blanking
Guggenheim.
on it right now. The Guggenheim Museum.
Yeah.
Thank you, Grinch. And I have both of them. And the first one was okay for the time, but the second one it's like night and day different. And just the level of detail was just spectacular that they were able to pack into it. So I think Grinch and I have talked. I'd love for them to revisit some of the old Frank Lloyd Wright stuff, Falling Water.
Oh yeah. Yep.
The Roby House. So I think that would be really fun.
Great Wall in China, Great Wall. They did a small one there. Like I think a good example of that is the recent Trevi Fountain from the old version they did back in 2013 or something like that, I believe, to where it is today, like 10 years later. Way much more detail, much bigger, more expensive, but at the same time, it just feels like that you can see the progression. And I've got some old retired sets from Brinklink, from like the Louvre and all the other ones, and like it just doesn't compare to like the sets of today. You almost feel disappointed a little bit after you build it. You're like, wow, this was it. Like it's the early days of the modular buildings where you're like they have no detail inside, but they're all an outside piece. And now it's like the complete opposite for the side.
That's why I don't mind buying older sets used, because it's like I spent $500 on like this, whereas like when it's an older set, it's like, it's okay. It's already super old. It's going to feel outdated anyways. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Let me save the money and maybe get 2 or 3 of them instead of just the one.
Yep, exactly.
So is your favorite set then, is it an architecture set, or are you going to go rogue and that's your favorite theme and you got another favorite set?
So I'll give you 2 answers because it's impossible to pick your favorite kid from that perspective. So I would say my favorite set I built last year is the Super Mario and Yoshi set that came out, where you can crank it and basically move Yoshi.
Yep.
I think it's a phenomenal like 2D kind of look and feel, 8-bit. Just the way that they were able to structure that was an incredible building technique. So that would like really good for me from that end. And then the Notre Dame Cathedral would be my other one that I think is probably my favorite, just because there's so much detail in there and there's so much little pieces that kind of come together and tell a story. I think those are fantastic. But honestly, I think the building experience is what I look for the most with a set when it comes to, and that's why I call out the Super Mario and Yoshi as like, it's that aha moment when you crank that for the first time, like, oh my God, it all just works. That's crazy. So I think that's really where I enjoy the Lego experience from that end. But there's a lot of great sets out there. It's really hard to pick your favorite, but I try to look at what I built last year and what I enjoyed the most of that experience too. I will say this year, the Trevi Fountain is probably my early favorite because it was such a great build. There's so much hidden Easter eggs in there. There's like a coin that you build at the very beginning that kind of puts into the water. You look at the water, you think, oh, that's repetitive, it's going to be boring or whatever, but it's not. It's like really cool, interesting how they kind of have the little lip in the front there. So a lot of good stuff coming out from that.
So you build more than just Lego sets, though, when it comes to Lego. You have built a Lego app. And before we transition over to that, real quickly, can you tell me where people can find you, where people can download this app, and kind of just a little bit more about Bricked itself?
Yeah, so the first thing I would say is there's no E in Brick, so it's BRICKD because it's not cool internet world to have vowels and stuff like that at the end. Even though there's plenty of other vowels.
This man knows it.
Yeah, exactly. So you can find us at getbricked.com or brick.app. Either one of those works. And then you can follow us on Instagram. It's probably the best way to interact with us at getbrickedapp as our handle there. We're also on other services, but Instagram is kind of where it's at these days. So that's where we are. But yeah, download the app in the store. You can just search Bricked on the App Store or Google Play, and they'll be able to download. It's a free app to download too, just to call that out.
So what is Bricked? What's this hype about?
So Bricked is a social media app for Lego fans. So essentially allows you to kind of collect and maintain your own collection, add your sets to different collections, such as you can organize them by theme, or you can organize them by what you want to get on a wish list. And you can share that with your social network. So you can follow people on there. You can basically share pictures and video of your Lego sets. One of the cool things I think that sets us apart from like an Instagram from that perspective is that you can actually add build notes as you're building the set. So let's say you're on you're building on the Starry Night, for example, and you want to wallow in your pain of bag 5 being the blue hell from building up the back of all of that. You can share a video or you can share a photo of that experience and say, I'm on bag 5. Here's what I think about it. I think that creates a very unique experience of like reliving your builds. And let's be honest, like once you build your sets, they go on a shelf and you rarely probably interact with them again. But with Bricked, you can go back and relive all of your build notes and your experiences, your videos, your images of that build, and kind of see what we like and what we don't like. And then your friends can see that too. So it all helps us figure out what's cool about each individual set as a whole. And also we have the social aspects. You can share it to your feed and people can like it and comment them and interact and engage with the community. So it's an extension of a lot of different things we have out there, from the Facebooks, the Instagrams, the Twitter or the X versions out there, to all in one spot where you can kind of find sets, organize them, and look for new ones to come in the future. So, it's like a Swiss Army knife for Lego collectors in the community, but a great way to kind of connect and learn more about what sets you might like and what sets you don't.
I love that idea that it's like you can kind of incorporate your build process into it, because usually, when we see something on social media, it's either like the start of a project or the end of a project.
Correct.
And every once in a while you'll see people kind of post mocks, but it's never quite in that same way. And it reminds me of there was like a social e-reader application where you could write notes into your paragraph that you were reading, and then your partner who was reading would see it when they got to that point too. Yeah. Right. And like discovered the same thing. And so it just seems like a really fun way to kind of break down that building process into kind of a more engaging activity with your kind of social, presence and community.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I started the process because as I was starting my Lego reestablishing my Lego career, I guess you could say at this point, I want to keep track of what I had, and I knew there's a lot of sites out there like Brickset or Brickable, etc. But one of the things that I did not see was like a mobile version of those sites or a mobile app. It just didn't exist in this world. And I said, I don't want to be tethered to a computer. I think one of the things I like about the Lego experience is like maybe I'll ruffle some feathers here, but I'm a big fan of physical instructions. I don't like using digital or like the Lego Builder app for the 3D. I don't like that experience, which is why I'm so pissed about Bricklink and all that stuff. Anyways, but the whole point is that I wanted something that on my phone that I quickly can check up a set, add it to my wish list, or kind of mark that I built it and stuff. And I didn't see any options out there from that end, so I kind of built my own version of it as a intermediate to say, hey, can this work? Can this be something people like to use? And I've continually built features on top of it to help the community connect better. Originally, it was just about collecting your own sets and your own things. Then we added things like the ability to add your own mocks. You can add your own mocks to Bricked as well and add your own photos for those blocks. We also have the full catalog of Lego on there. So if you wanted to see all the architecture sets and which ones you had and which ones you don't have, you can see that too and filter those options. We even added a progress bar if you really want to be an ultra collector and see how close you are to completing the entire set. We've added that too as well. So it's become my go-to version of Lego to find out more about a set and just log what I like. So that's kind of where we tried to bridge the gap and create some value for our end users too. From that end.
I think that's really cool because a lot of those websites that you mentioned, Rebrickable, Brickset, Bricklink, they're wonderful websites, but they do very much require you to have some sort of desktop presence.
Yeah.
Right. Their utility on a mobile device is just limited at best. I'm not going to say they're like clunky because they make sense on a desktop, but their transition to like that mobile platform just isn't as seamless. And so
yeah. It's odd, right? In a day like today, like in 2025, where we don't have like mobile focused sites, which is pretty bonkers to me, being in the tech world for so long. But and that just it creates opportunity, it creates things that we can kind of build upon, and that's kind of where a lot of my interest lied. Is like I'm tired of pinching and zooming to find out how many pieces are in this set or whether it's unique minifigures or wherever it needs to be. So the idea is to create more of a social network around Lego because, again, Lego has their own app called Lego Builder, right? So you can actually log your sets into Lego Builder, but it's limited. You cannot add any photos to that. You cannot share that with anybody, all your friends. It's meant for your own purpose. So it extends from that area. We also offer more set conditions you can add to it. So say, for example, you have two of the same set. One is sealed and one is built. You can categorize both of those collections in your own thing within Bricked and have multiples of each one to specify for the ultra collectors that that they want to show off that. And maybe you're a mock builder and you just bought a set because you want to part it out. You can do that too. You can add a part it out option as your set condition too. So a lot of extra features we try to add in there to kind of create more of a unified Lego social network that matches the experience of folks in the real world, as opposed to trying to fit Lego in like an Instagram box. Like, yes, you can share a photo, but what else do you want to add on there? Do you want to add like it was a mock? Do you want to add when you built it? Maybe you want to add that you added from an alternative version of a set. You broke it down or you changed it from that level. That's why we built Breck, to help connect folks better with the people and the community. And that's really what we're all about.
I really like how Lego is the center of all of this, right? Because you've mentioned a couple of things, like Bricklink, for example, is a marketplace to sell Lego, but first and foremost, it's a marketplace.
Yes.
Instagram is obviously a social network where you can talk about Lego, but the first part of that is it's a social network. This is a Lego social network versus the other way around, right?
Correct.
So it's really designed around that Lego experience, which I think is cool. And I won't say it, but one of those websites we mentioned is also absolutely riddled with advertisements and really kind of, I mean, if you're not using an ad blocker, it totally ruins your experience. Whereas Bricked is very seamless. It's very user friendly. There's not a bunch of stuff popping up in your face as you're scrolling through a set. So that's definitely one thing I've very quickly learned to appreciate with it wasn't getting slowed down unnecessarily. So it seems very refined, even though it's a quarter of the age old, right?
Yes, exactly. I think it's a really important aspect that, ads are part of every internet company out there, and people have to make money. Totally understand. But the thing that I really pride myself on with Bricked is that we're building the app for the community and the users. They are number one in my book of what we want to build for. If that bankrupts me and we have to shut it down, sure, that's fine. I'll do it. But I did it for the users, and that's what we want, and we're going to do it that way. So user experience is super important. If there are ever ads on Brick, they will be targeted toward Lego-related things or things that make more sense, not coffee makers or home mortgages or whatever you see on the internet these days. It's got to be targeted toward what people want to see across the board. So I think that's kind of my mantra in terms of making sure the app is a seamless experience and also feels right in the user's hand and not have to like swipe away ads or like turn on ad blocker to use. We want it to be a nice, easy experience for them.
So I feel like we kind of jumped around this a little bit, but let's put some words to it. What inspired you to create Bricked?
Yeah, I think, like I mentioned before, I wanted an app to keep track of my collection. And I just couldn't find anything out there that met the needs I was looking for, something that was mobile first, something that was easy to use, something that was social that I could share, something that I actually could like write build notes or like add photos. It just wasn't existing in the current world today. And those other sites have done a great job. I don't mean to even say like we're like a competitor to these things. They're very different in what they do. Where Brickable is more about mocks and things like part selections. We don't have any parts in our app from that end. And Bricklink is a marketplace, like you mentioned. So we try to kind of marry a lot of those features together to create the ultimate built-in experience. So we do have buy it options in Brick. You can actually see pricing information from Lego, and we have Amazon and Walmart and Target and all the other ones in there, so you can see where things lie. But we're not a marketplace. We don't have people selling their stuff on there, and we don't, advertise selling your mock instructions. So we want to kind of use all the great things about what other sites have built and put them all in one spot. And that's kind of how Brick was born. I mean, we launched in February of last year, 2024. So we've been around for about a year and a month now. And we're close to around 7,000 users on the platform, which is pretty amazing.
Nice.
The amount of growth. I've had experience on other apps before, working in niche-based social networks like this one, but never have I seen. I didn't know much about the Lego community going into this project, and I learned so much talking to folks like yourself and others about what's important to them and getting feedback and building it out. But I just wanted to create an environment where folks could come together and chat and engage in new ways that is Lego focused. Again, we have discussions on the app, just like Reddit does, but we're not a Reddit app. We're a Lego Reddit app, like you mentioned before. Right. So that's the primary focus of all the things we do, is surrounding around the brick building experience first, and then the secondary features come after it. So we try to tailor ourselves toward those things.
And you've built other apps, is that correct?
Yeah, so I built another social app called Untapped, which is a beer-centric social network, very similar to Bricked. It's even spelled different. It spelled very similar. I didn't really do that until a minute ago.
There's no E.
Wow, there's no E. Yeah, I really did that. I didn't intend to do
you're
that.
So cool in the internet.
Yeah,
world.
I'm very cool.
Plus 5 points over here.
Dialed in, yeah.
So Untapped was a beer-centric application I founded back in 2010. It's still around today, but it's around the same concepts where a user would check in their beer, share their location and where they're having it, get recommendations from that end. And Brick is very similar. We have badges you can earn on Brick for adding a set to your collection of a theme, like icons or ideas or Harry Potter or something like that. So we try to keep a social experience there. We have recommendations that we have in the app too, so we know what sets you've added to your collection, the rating you've had of that set, so we can recommend you sets that are similar. It's interesting with the beer world. Beer is distributed very differently across the world, so you can't actually recommend a beer to everybody. But Lego is great. Like Lego's available to everyone, but the thing is like retired versus non-retired or accessibility are the big ones from that end. So similar situations, different problems, but they all kind of bubble up the same way. But so losing a lot of knowledge that I've done in the past with Untapped to apply that to Brick has been a fun exercise to learn more and see what we can do on that front.
When I think, again, listening to you talk, right, we hear that, like you mentioned, right, there's already all of these things that are available. What just stands out to me is how this engages more in just the Lego building process and how it gives people that outlet to share that in a way that feels a lot more meaningful than just posting on Instagram or literally Grinch and I before this conversation we're just kind of chatting, and I'm working on the El Dorado Fortress right now.
Yep.
And I probably will have already talked about this in the what we're building this week for the listener. But I was just commenting on I was like, oh yeah, I just really did not like the boat at the start of this build. And as you were mentioning that, I was like, man, this would have been a perfect thing to post onto Bricked.
There you go.
Because I could have shared my, kind of hot takes in the process of building it. So,
and that's like super the intent of what we're trying to accomplish. I think with the Instagram, posting, don't get me wrong, we're on Instagram, we post all the time what we're building, we'll share stories. But I think one thing you lose is the actual written words and the around the topics that we're actually talking about. And if it's all collected in one spot, it's actually helpful for someone to say, oh yeah, I know that boat in El Dorado is going to be challenging or annoying. Like I've heard so many people on Brick say about the Jaws boat. It's been really challenging because you built it on the side and you put it together. It's very fragile. I would never have known those things if I didn't hear about them from that end. And you can't glean that from a YouTube video or an Instagram reel sometime. It just want to see it and read it and kind of go along with the process. I think that's kind of what we're trying to accomplish at this point, is to create a different view of it. And you hit another great point there too, is the building experience is what makes Lego, in my opinion, so great. So yes, it's great to get all these IP sets from Star Wars and everything else and build things that you've seen on television and you have put in your room. But how you build it, that's, I think, what Lego's all about. It's not like you just give you a bunch of bags and it's pre-built and put it on your shelf, you're done. It's the building experience that I think really draws a lot to that. So highlighting that in the app has been a big part of what we try to do to differentiate ourselves from other people out there.
When there's a timeliness to it too, right? That there, you get diminishing returns on capturing that kind of emotional feeling. If I talk about it days later, it's not the same kind of this was awesome, or oh, this was really frustrating and I got stuck, because this was just really tough. Yeah. So being able to capture that kind of real time, I think, kind of gets more of that raw emotion out there.
Totally agree. And we also have a new feature we rolled out a couple of days ago where it takes all of the build notes for a set and it uses AI to summarize it for people, so you can actually see what the summary of folks is. It's great to see that for newer sets that come out in the first couple of days. Everyone builds it and posts it, and so you can get what people think about the new sunflower set or the Trevi fountain or things of that nature and read up on it from that end and get more of a summarized view. So it's great when you use AI the right way for the right reasons across the board to get a summary of you, which is awesome.
Well, and we've actually on this podcast played a game where we tried to guess the set by the 1-star review, and I feel like that. It typically they almost feel very trolly these days,
yes,
right?
They do.
For example, somebody was disappointed that the tuxedo cat came in 1,000 pieces, and it's it's a Lego set. That's the point.
I want more pieces. I want a higher piece count is better. So what's the problem
right? They thought it was going to come built.
Yeah,
so
they were upset that it wasn't pre-assembled.
No way.
Yes, real thing.
Oh,
but this AI feature, like you were just talking about, it's more of the raw reaction. It's more of the, community kind of in the moment. Hey, Jaws set can be a little bit difficult. Watch out. It's not -5 stars.
Correct.
If I could. This set is a ripoff. Lego's trying to ruin their own hobby. It's not those overreactions, right? It's a real life, real time reaction to the set, and then it's culminated into a couple different reactions, right? So I think that's really powerful.
I think the internet culture right now is all about how can we troll a set and bring it all the way down. And so, I'm really careful about using AI the right way, because if you take raw responses and someone's like, this boat's horrible, I wish it sunk, they don't need a bigger boat, they need 0 boats or something like that. It's just not good for anyone across the board. You want to take real criticism on there and you want to add it to a solution, but we use a different type of prompt with the AI to making sure that it's not going to go hog wild and tell a story that's not true. Use the data, be more efficient with it, and be more effective there. So I totally agree with you. I remember that would be that's a great idea, going through all the 1-star reviews like Amazon or something like that, and just that'd be awesome.
After we're done recording, I'll send you the cat one.
I cannot wait to read this more.
It was classic. Yeah, and then you also get the classic, I would have given this 3 stars, but for some reason too many people gave it 5, so I'm going to give it a 1 star. No, that's not how this works.
That's not how ratings work. That's not any of this works. So, you're
not here to police the reviews.
Right.
I know. It's horrible.
So that's a new feature. Do you have a favorite feature of the app?
I think for me, one of the cooler features that we have, I'll put two out there because I got to be, again, I added two favorite sets. I'll do two favorite features from that end. So one of my favorite features is what we have our AI image search. So I think this is really cool opportunity where we allow you to take a picture of a completed set or in a box, and we'll tell you what the name of it is and also what the set number is. This is great for people that have older sets that have no idea what the number is or just on their shelf for a long period of time. Or more importantly, you're lazy and you don't want to type it in. Just take a picture of it and we'll find it for you. So we use a machine learning model of all the images of all the sets on there, and we use AI to kind of help us figure out what the set is. And it's really cool to be able to snap a photo and it tells you immediately what it is across the board. That's a really cool feature. But I think that the best one for me is the build notes. Being able to kind of like catalog your build process and look back at it is like really rewarding. I think that's the most important part of like Lego as a building experience. And now I built this Home Alone set behind me about a year and a half ago, and I still go back and I look back at my comments like, oh my God, you're building the anvil that's going to fall down on his head through this thing. It's so cool. And like the excitement you can read from my notes still live, I can revisit those moments there from that end. Even though I had not really like opened the set up or looked at it in a long time, it's a great way to look back from that end. So I think those are one of my favorite features to share from that end.
Well, I didn't know that you guys had that identification feature, and I find that that's just fascinating, not only because you're leveraging machine learning, which is just such a unique process these days, but also because you're providing AFOLs, especially collectors. If you're somebody who buys things in bulk, or I remember Grinch telling me a story of he kind of bought this bulk set back when he was lived in his old house that included the Burlington Northern Santa Fe that he was not aware of at the time, right? But you saw a part of it and you're like, wait a second.
Oh, I saw a sticker on the Craigslist post, and I was like,
fair enough. But,
I was containing myself when I was negotiating the price down. I was like, bulk, I only buy it $5 a pound, buddy. And it's like, okay, no, that's fine. I was like,
joke's on you.
Yeah.
But anyways, like,
that's a $500 set.
Yeah, to be able to find that stuff and like be able to identify that, especially for people who maybe are like, I don't know what I have, right?
Exactly.
So I think that'll be really powerful for the community.
We also have a QR scanner that I think is very popular nowadays with the minifig scanners that works for that as well. But more importantly, as most modern Lego sets now have a QR code that you can scan on the manual, you can also use that in the app too to scan it, and it will come up with a set that it is from that end too. So we have various ways to identify your Lego parts, from the QR code scanning to the manual, to using AI to be able to do it. And also, one thing I should probably talk about is that we do have a premium version of Brick. Brick is a free account. You can download and do whatever you want. But if you want extra features, we have a thing called Brick Builder, which is a monthly subscription you can purchase across the board. But you can actually take a picture of your entire Lego collection, and we use AI and more machine learning to catalog all of it and give you a full list of all the sets and what you want to add it to. So if you're a big collector, you maybe not use BrickLink or Brickable, and you don't have your set somewhere else you want to import to us, just snap a photo of your bookshelf or whatever, and we'll do the rest and tell you what it is. No, we get it right 100% of the time. Not sometimes we don't. AI doesn't work all the time, but we get to a starting point, which is really cool to be able to like leverage that piece there. So that's a really cool thing as well.
If only I knew somebody who had a very large Lego collection who could probably benefit from something like that.
I don't know who you're talking about. I actually, Greg, we need to chat because I got my MBA a few years ago, and as part of my capstone, we designed an app.
Nice.
And the missing piece to that project, I believe, is you. and I'll market and sell this app to everybody, but we should seriously have a conversation.
I'm all ears.
Because I've got other implications for this technology.
Nice.
And you know the tech, so
there you go.
You can answer this question if you want.
Sure.
If you want to give the audience a little peek behind the curtain. If not, just say skipped. But with no E. And is there a future capability, one that might be around the corner, or maybe a dream capability that you just don't know how to quite get there yet, that you want to add to the app?
It's a couple things we have got in the pipeline that I can talk about from that end. And I think, first of all, we love hearing feedback from our users about what features to add. I think one of the things you do not see very much in a lot of apps and services these days is like actual people responding to you when you ask for a feature or feedback. And I take a lot of pride in answering emails or requests from that end. And one of the things that we've always heard a lot about is AFOLs want to be able to connect in the community with people that are like-minded to them and located around their same area. Now, we're not going to get all creepy and location-based services on you at that point, but we do offer the ability when you sign up for Brick to enter in your location. And when I mean by location, you can say, I'm located in Connecticut or New York or wherever from a state perspective. So one thing we're working on right now is kind of like more of a view of people around you, not someone that's down the street and you can go and steal all their Legos from their house like the next day, but at the same time, someone in your general vicinity where you kind of engage and follow and see what their content is, and maybe even like organize a meetup or wherever,
Right.
do a Lego release store. So this feature, we're calling it, I actually don't have a name for it, but it's basically just like a list of people around you that opt in to putting their location in the app, so you can see what's available to you and you can follow them or engage with them. I just found a couple of folks that I don't know personally live in Connecticut near me that go to the only Lego store that's centrally located and have gone, and I probably have bumped into them before but never knew about it. So like this is the purpose of trying to connect folks better with those kind of community from that end. That's one thing that we're working on soon, and that should be released in the near future. The other thing that I would say is like we are a social app, so engaging content with others is super important. So mentioning people or tagging people in posts is something that we're working on in comments, in discussion posts, etc. So you can always bring in the right folks to the right conversation to the piece. So like being able to tag someone with a handle is like similar to Instagram is something we're also working on as well. So. But like I said earlier, if there are feature requests that are coming in, someone asked me a couple of days ago if they could that can make a QR code to their profile. So I built it and I put it into the profile. So now you can actually allow to scan your QR code and it goes to your profile page. So like I'm very open to talking about features. What I really want to do is build the app for the people, and that's just kind of like how I manage it from that end. Of course, we can't do everything under the sun. That is like physically impossible with a one-man part-time job thing situation. But I love to hear those stories and people interested in the platform, for lack of a better.
I would really like a feature that I could click on a set and just send it to me for free.
That we cannot do because I can't make magic happen. But what I can do with it is that you can actually go to a set page and say, hey, Wes, I think you'd like this set. I'm going to send it to you. You can send him a direct message in the app with the set information right then and there, and then click on it and it can see all information. He won't get it for free, but at least he knows you're thinking about him, which is the best brothers can do to each other.
There we go. There we go.
So one area as an app user, right? I'm not an app creator. I've always struggled with is getting started with apps, right? It's you download it and you're kind of like, okay, there's a couple buttons on the bottom panel, right? There's all these awesome features. How would you recommend getting started with Bricked if you were an AFOL that just downloaded it for the first time and was like ready to go?
Yeah, so when you first launch the app and you don't follow anyone, we give you a suggested feed list, which is similar to Instagram or other ones, of people that you should be following or seeing content based on what they're posting and their pictures from that level. So I recommend following some people on that list that come up, like myself. If you want to follow me, I'd be greatly appreciated. But I think that's a great way to start. You can see what's being built around the community. Also, I would definitely explore the Explore tab, which is a great way to figure out what's happening on the platform. We show trending information like what the most popular viewed set is in the last 30 days. What set has been wishlisted the most amount of time? Which set has been added to the most amount of lists? Or which theme has the most amount of sets in the last 30 days added to users' accounts? So it gives you a perspective of like how the community is engaging with the product. Usually it's kind of influenced by what's being released and what people want to see. Like, for example, the Mario Kart that got announced on Mario Day, that was like the #1 viewed set and #1 added to wishlist set in the first 24 hours. rightfully so. It's a killer set. I can't wait to get that. But I think that's where also what I would start to find out from there. But more importantly, we do allow you to import your collections. If you do have a collection with Brickset or Rubricable or even Bricklink, we allow you to import that information directly into to Brick, and then we'll have all your sets populated for you. The beauty about Lego is that there's a one unique identifier that every set has, which is the set number. So no matter what service number you're on, they all use the same set number there. So you'll never have an issue of like, what is this set here? If it's in Lego's catalog, we got it, and we'll be able to kind of display it for you. So there's a couple avenues that you can go down. If you have that in there, you can import it, or you can add them manually from that end. But I always encourage folks to explore the other areas of the app, like to the Explore tab, find friends that you're recommended from that end and follow their content, and then be able to share your own from that side. So we've heard stories from people saying, hey, I want to add stuff to my wish list so my significant other or my friends know what I want for my birthday or something like that. That's another opportunity too, to also like load up your wish list to be able to hopefully cross it off from that end. And this year we also did like a wrapped version or a year in review version for your content. So like every year we'll do this going forward, where we can show you stats like, how many sets you built this year, how many pieces you built this year. One cool data story that we did this year was how many sets did you move off your wish list and actually got? So like you added 10 items to your wish list and you obtained 5 of them. Congratulations, your wallet is really hurting, but at least your pride is there. So, I think those are the things that we kind of want to really focus on across the board and make cool experiences from that end. So the more you put into Brick, the more data you give it from your collections, what you like, the better you'll get out of it from that end. The more recommendations you'll get, the better recaps you get on a monthly basis. We show your piece count and your sets built. We also have really deep stats that show you your build history over the course of whatever how long you've been on the app. So you can see like a history of like how many pieces per month you built. One of the most requested features that I cringe at sometimes is like we actually show you your set value from a monetary perspective, which you have an option to hide that if you really don't want to see it. It blurs it out so you don't like get like shocked at the amount of money you spent on Lego. But we calculate all the pricing data from Lego sets that you own, and we show you how much it's worth if everything was brand new, obviously, from Lego's perspective. So we show you that detail as well. So
just original retail.
Yes, and if you're a Brick Builder subscriber, we give you the estimated cost from eBay data. So you'll be able to see how much the used value is from that end. But we just use the retail price for Lego, which is only if it's sealed and stuff like that from that end. So we can give you like a net worth, I guess you could call it, if you want to look at it from that perspective of your Lego collection, which could be a good thing or could be a bad thing, depending on how you look at it from that end.
So feature-wise, right? The biggest focus is kind of a social network for Lego,
Yes.
right? What is the best way that you recommend as the founder to kind of engage with other AFOLs through the messaging? Is it based off of collections, sharing, all of the above, however you want? What's your recommendation there?
Yeah, I think discussions is the area that I encourage folks a lot to check out too. Obviously, we'd love to build Legos 24/7, but we just can't do that. Unfortunately, we would go bankrupt or whatever. But you can always add your build notes to what you're building. But the discussions area, which is a tab in the app, allows you to kind of create Lego themed threads and posts people can engage in. So for example, like a couple of ones I've seen this week is like, I'm building a new Lego room. What do you recommend for sets or for or a shelf, something like that? Or like, I'm setting up my Lego city. What lighting sets do you think would be the best for this particular room? So you can ask questions there. You can poll. You can say, hey, I've got 4 sets in my backlog. What should I build next? And you can engage with the community from that level. So there's a lot of ways to kind of like engage outside of just a normal experience of building a set and sharing it, because all these things go back to your feed, which basically allow folks to do it. That's a great way that I get a chance to talk directly with people as well. Like I do a lot of like, hey, what should we build next? Do you have any feedback kind of ways? And they can respond in this like discussion post, and we can engage and talk about things as well from that end. So that's a great way to kind of engage with the Lego community outside of just showing what you have from a collection perspective, which is great. Don't get me wrong. You can still share those collections inside of a Brick. But I also think that, too, you can also ask questions like, where can I find this set? Like, I had a missing piece. Anyone have any problem with this set? Like, a lot of it comes on those discussion boards that are built into the app to make it more Lego focused from that end, too.
Well, I just wanted to back up for a second because I think that tool of being able to annotate your collection and not only kind of derive a value from it is important, especially for AFOLs. I don't hear enough AFOLs talking about insuring their Lego collections.
Yeah, it's an area that actually we're looking into. I talked to somebody who has like a very large collection, multiple rooms, and they actually have an insurance policy on it. But they asked for like a list of all the sets and value, and no one has that. They have a list, but no value and price. They have to manually do it, or they don't have a list at all, and they just estimate what it could be worth, and it could be 10 times more than what they think. So I think that's something that we actually like. I want to look into more, like how can we like link up with insurance companies? Like, hey, look, here's what we can do, or something like that. That could be creepy, but I think it's a cool opportunity from that end too.
Well, I think too, because it was maybe a year or two ago, the Washington Post did an article about the value of Lego increasing, and people are now really starting to catch on. I mean, Lego is appreciating at a value that is on the level with like well-known high-end luxury brands. Yeah. And so I think now that people are starting to realize, you kind of have like just the hobbyists, and now you kind of get that second tier of like savvy investors who are just like, not really a big fan of Lego. Like, I think it's neat, but like, you can't beat a 15% return or year
it's
over
11, year. But it's still very good.
Fair enough, right? Very high.
Yeah.
The S&P is like 8, so
yeah,
exactly. So, it's more than stock, so you're all good.
Right. But I mean, these collections appreciate in value significantly, and if you have a large enough collection, you're looking at quite a bit of money there at some point. So
I think that's kind of why Lego, purchased Bricklink back in the day too. They wanted a piece of that pie from a marketing perspective on the third party market for their own stuff. Like they sold it at $100, and then like 2 years later, 4 years later, it's like $300. Look at stuff like the old fishing store, one of the first Lego ideas, which is a white whale set I'll probably never ever get, but it goes for $1,000 on eBay for a Lego set built and probably in like a smoke filled house, but it still goes for $1,000. So I think you're absolutely right. There's some value here that could be captured, and I think people don't really look at it from that level. I'm more of a collector myself. I'd love to be able to like maybe when I retire from my Lego collection, I guess you could say. But for me, I definitely think it's interesting to see where this is going in the future, especially being such a high commodity right now for sealed sets.
So I have a bit of a random question for you, and it's nothing scandalous, so I'll preview with that. Although maybe some people might find it a little scandalous. There's
the butt of the hooker right there. It's not scandalous, but
Well, in a very AFOL and nerdy way, right? So Grinch and I have talked about this a little bit in our own experience of parting out and rebuilding a set, right? And I think we've talked about like philosophically, the one interesting thing about Lego is like there's really no difference between me parting out the Jaws set and buying it brand new, right? Other than like the only real way to differentiate it is if you have it new in box sealed, or even if you keep an instruction. But even then, at that point, right? Like I can part out a set, get a set of instructions, and be like, I threw away the box.
Or you can buy the box. You can also buy the box.
Fair enough, right?
That's why I've got the Black Pearl box, because it's like $200 for some reason. Just the box.
So I guess, this is an open question, right? From Grinch, please feel free to add in your take here. But like, what are your thoughts on that of like, people engaging the hobby in that again, it's a bit of a curveball and it's a bit out of the blue, but do you think that is like kosher, or are we kind of in an area of like you're kind of taking advantage of the system because you could part out an old modular for probably not that much money and sell it as a used version of that modular? I don't think you're necessarily doing anything wrong, but I also feel like you're being a little disingenuous. That's maybe my take.
My take is I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but you should be truthful on where you're getting. Like, did I just grab this from my parts bin and put it together for you? And like, it seems like a lot of work to be able to do all that. And if you want to do that and try to make a lot of money or whatever, that's fine too. Just be honest about it. Like, this is not an original from the set. There are pieces that have various life. I think when you buy a used set, the biggest thing I will look for is like how old are the Legos. Like if it's an older modular, is there any yellowing of the white bricks from there? So if you're telling me that you just got a bunch of white bricks and some are not yellow and some are yellow or whatever. I just want to know like how this was put together. I think fans are just wanting to get the set period. So like I've heard stories, people just saying I parted out the list for this set and I bought them individually on Bricklink from various marketplaces just to be able to build that set, which is the same thing you're describing to me, but I'm just getting from various sources from that perspective. So I don't think anything wrong with it as long as you're super clear, like this is not from the original set. I built this together or what have you. That's the only thing I would call out.
To play devil's advocate, though, it's my favorite role on this show. If you have a printed piece that only came in that set, I mean, you parted it out, but it also, the only place that piece could have came from is that set. So the way that I look at it is, look, in almost every single case, and I say almost specifically, you're going to pay a premium for a new set in boxed versus a used set.
Correct.
And sometimes it can be 5%, sometimes if it's a super sought after set, right? Like we talked about that with like Cloud City or some of the modulars. If it's maybe not as super sought after and it's just rare because it's still in the box, that premium could be 50%, 100% more than the used version, right? We've talked about that with some of our Throwbot episodes or Bionicle episodes where it's like it's essentially equivalent to retail today used, but new it's 10 times that. So for me as a collector, if I'm buying a new set and I really care about that specifically, you just have to buy new.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
That's why you're paying that premium.
Yeah, I recently bought the used pet store modular building from like Bricks and Minifigs, local retailer around this area.
Yep.
And like one of the things I like about Lego, I want to build it. So like, it all comes fully built, and I have to take it apart and rebuild it. And when I rebuilt it, I don't know what happened. I'm missing pieces. Like it's weird how this came together. And I have a big gap where the pet sign is. I'm missing like 2 pieces there that I have to get to finish the actual sign. And it kind of like sucks from that. It almost makes me want to purchase it retail. But I like the building experience. If I'm going to buy a used set, I want to make sure that the instructions are there. I want to make sure that the piece count is correct. If it's not an incomplete set, that's very important to me. But like you said, if it's really something that I really care about, I want to buy new and not used from that.
Right. So I think we got through all of our questions today. I just had a couple comments and feel free to respond.
Sure.
There's 2 things that really stood out to me, and I actually said this on an episode a few weeks ago. When it comes to digital Lego experiences, one thing that I really dislike is when they try to replace building the actual bricks, right? And or replacing the Lego hobby itself. And what I really like about Bricked is that it's a complementary experience, right? It revolves around you having built Lego. And I travel a lot for work, right? So I might not always be home, right? I just had a kid, so I might not be able to sit down and build whenever I want to anymore, but I can still get yes. Learning that right now. But yeah. I can still pick up the Brick app and, I'm going to go build this set this weekend. Let's see what other people have. And I can have set about and I can gain a little bit of excitement, right? Or I can be away from out of town on a work trip and, sitting there watching TV at night and, but I just wish I had my Lego collection. I can go sort through there, add stuff to it, manage it while I'm away. It really adds to that AFOL experience versus trying to come in and be like, you don't need Lego anymore, you just need this, right? And that's where I really think the magic and the power of this app is.
Thank you. Yeah, it's exactly what we're trying to accomplish, and I think it's a complimentary service. Without Lego being there, we are nothing. So why not make it that way from that end?
Just like my life.
Just kidding. That's a deep question right there.
I think Junior might have something to say about that.
Wes, help him out, man. I think he needs to have a chat or something.
Just kidding.
Well, the other thing too, right, is between Instagram, between YouTube, between social media, right? We see a lot of, there's really no other way to put this, but they're influencers, right? They're part of the ambassador network, and the majority of them put out a wonderful product. And I wouldn't even go as far as to say it's biased or anything like that, but it's really nice to be able to hear some from the mass, right? It's Vox Populi on Bricked, where I don't need to hear from the same people over and over again of like, because you start to understand their nuances, their quirks, what they like, what they don't like. And so after a while, you're kind of like, well, I already kind of feel like I know how this person is going to feel about this set. So I'm not really getting anything new or engaging from that. But, it's just nice to hear from like kind of everybody about how they felt about it. So
yeah, I think
that's really
everybody has the same rating weight. Like, I think when you're a big YouTuber or whatever, like everyone's excited about your review for the latest set that comes out. And, I think you follow that for the person and not for the set.
Right.
I think that's a big difference there. Like, Tiago is one of my favorite YouTubers for Lego. And I love, he's got a great voice. And I enjoy listening to him. But I mean, I know what he's going to say about all the sets. Like, it's not a surprise to me. I love the production value and when he does. But I come to Brick for is like, what are people thinking about the set? Is it good or bad? Like, give me the raw reasons across the board. And nothing against Tiago. I like his stuff as well. But I just feel like I enjoy watching him and less about the set. And then the Brick experience for me is like, what do the common folks think about the set? Would they spend their hard-earned money on it? Would they not? Are they regretting their purchase? Or are they loving it and sharing with everybody else? That's a really important thing to me.
Yeah, and the other thing I really enjoy about the app, and I've said this before on the show, but it's consistent, is being an AFOL can be a little bit of an isolating experience, right? I mean, it's a very popular hobby, but it's also something you really do yourself, right? Like, you sit down and play Lego. So you don't go to a bar and hang out with your buddies and sit down and play Mario Kart or something like that, right? It's a very self-fulfilling experience, and one that you do. And I'll build a set with my wife, and that's awesome, but for the most part, I build by myself, right? And if I didn't have my brother West, I probably wouldn't have as many people to talk to. So I think that Bricked is a really great way to just help connect builders, right? And in a way too, where you don't have to travel, part way across the country to go to a convention or something like that, right? You can still do it from the comfort of your home, which is the other big advantage of doing Lego, right? Is you don't need a team of 12 people to go play, or however many people to go play soccer on the weekend, right? Like,
right.
You can just stay at home and do it. So
exactly, that's a great point. I think that's exactly what we're trying to do here, is that build a community virtually that can be supportive. And I mean, it feels good when you build a set and you complete it and you have a bunch of folks liking your content and saying, oh yeah, it's a great build. I did it too, it was fantastic. You're doing exactly what you just described a minute ago. So that's what we're trying to replicate, the experience of building Lego, making it more social. Now, I know Lego Builder app has a social building experience, but it's a little bit different than what I would describe as social building experience. I have like a grand vision for could we all build the same set together on Bricked and all do it virtually? That'd be kind of cool to experiment and see what you could do to bring that to fruition with technology. But maybe in the future. But I think that's exactly what we're trying to do. We're trying to connect people across the world, across the thing. And we have some people all over the world using Brick. I have like an internal tool that I built to show maps of where folks are actually using it. It's all over the world that people are using it. I've always said to people that Lego is a age agnostic toy. You can be 1 or you could be 99 and you can still be going to Lego store and buying stuff. Not many products in this world can say that. So I think it's very unique and one to be cherished from a community perspective for sure.
To that point, that reminds me of Peloton and the ability to go on to a live ride where you're participating together. So if you guys found a way to make a live build with somebody kind of guiding it, like a Cody Rigsby, if you will, of the Bricked experience. That would be really
he'd
fun.
Sign up right to that solution across.
Yeah.
I'm a big Peloton guy too, so I know exactly what you need from that end. So that'd be awesome.
If you need any brick athletes, I know where I can find some.
Yes, let's do it.
I'm just gonna say I build at a rate of 25 bricks per second. So
hey guys, this is a 2-minute warm up.
All right, start opening up your bag. Get your brick separators ready. You need that handy from.
If you're
awesome. Paper bags is an excuse to go slow.
That'd be pretty cool. Wow.
All right. Well, I think that kind of wraps up the main portion of our conversation here, Greg. Thank you so much for joining us. Did you have any final thoughts to leave us with before we move on to our brick mail section?
Well, thanks guys for having me. I really appreciate it. If you're interested in finding more about Brick, I'd recommend checking out the app at Get Bricked without an E, but there's an E in Get. Anyways, bricked.app is a much easier way to get to it because it's hard to explain that. And we're available on the App Store at Bricked for both Android and iOS. And follow us on Instagram at Get Bricked App. We're happy to engage with you there. We post some funny meme content and all that stuff like that. So if you don't like the app, maybe you like to laugh. So you can follow us on Instagram at least from that.
Well, thank you so much, Greg. Thanks for joining us. West, let's move on to Brick Mail. Brick Mail. All right, so big thanks again to Greg for joining us on the podcast this week. West, why don't you take us away with the Brick Mail?
Yeah. And before I get into our first Brick Mail, I just want to say, Greg, we really appreciate you coming on. This was a lot of fun. Grinch, I really enjoyed talking to Greg. I thought that was like a really easy discussion on our part. And it was just really fun to hear kind of from a newer AFOL and just, clearly he's got the bug. So
yeah.
Exciting to hear. So
I believe he said it went all downhill after he got the up house. I believe what he meant to say was uphill.
But let's talk Brick Mail. So our first Brick Mail today was from Corey Less, who wrote in, and he's been a kind of a longtime listener and a longtime contributor. He said, just saw on Instagram that you decided to skip your spring break for an emergency pod about Pokemon. Sorry you didn't get your break in, but I'm excited to listen nonetheless. I have made it a point recently to be more active on social media, specifically on X, regarding my Lego, Amazon, eBay hobby business. I've reached out to new people and interacted with a variety of accounts. I'm completely out of my element, as I always left the social media posts to my wife. Long story short, I reached out to Ken at Brick Dynasty because he mentioned on a YouTube video that they were looking for someone to write a blog on their website. I have no writing experience, but I've learned quite a bit about Lego over the last 2 years and decided it can't hurt to ask. I sent him a sample I wrote up, and he asked me to contribute to the site for a weekly blog. I'm not getting paid except for some affiliate links people can purchase Lego through, which I don't expect to get rich from. As I mentioned in prior emails, I give you guys credit for helping me explore new avenues in Lego, and this is definitely a new avenue for me. People like to stay in your lane, but I'm having more fun trying new things. Corey Less. And Corey, this is really exciting to hear for the listeners and viewers. He wrote in on the notes. He said, "I don't know if you want to share this," and of course we want to share it because it's just really fun to hear that you are engaging in this hobby in a new way. And neither Grinch or I really had podcasting experience before we started this. Grinch had worked on his YouTube channel before, but there's always a jumping out point in starting something new. I mean, Grinch, you've been working in your current company for a few years. I've been at my current company for almost 10 years now. And I, again, have not done anything like this before. And I know I mentioned to you when we first started, I was a little nervous about putting my face out there and being in front of a camera. And you just got to get out there and do it, right? So I think that's just really exciting that you're trying something new. You're working on something that you haven't or you don't feel super confident in. Obviously, I think over time you're going to build up that strength and get better at this. So that's really exciting. So congrats, Corey, and it's nice to hear that we helped you get to that point, inadvertently certainly, but excited to hear that. So yeah.
If you do get rich off those affiliate links, I think what you're saying. No, I'm just kidding. All right, our next piece is actually a reply to a message I sent. So we're featuring it here just because it's topical. I reached out to Daniel, who has shared with us, his journey with, submitting a set to the Bricklink Designer Program, and I just, gave him some sympathy for not being selected. So this is his reply. He just said, "Man, it's all good. I actually got some feedback from the Bricklink Designer Program team yesterday that it was very successful, and they actually built the model themselves, but it was too unstable in its current state to become a finalist. I don't know how many models they build, but I imagine it's only serious contenders. So now I'm working on collecting the bricks to build it physically and solve the structural issues. So I'm very encouraged about the progress." And I think that's just awesome. I also interesting insight to the process,
Yeah.
right? And best of luck building that. And you've got the email if you need any, want to float any techniques by a fellow builders in this case. You got West and me. We can certainly do that. So
Yeah,
here's to the
Daniel, we'd love
future.
to see a final picture of where it ends up, on your desk or whatever, because I think that would be really neat. And yeah, like Grinch said, insight into the Bricklink Designer program is not something that we get every day. We kind of know how the ideas process works to some extent, but this is definitely kind of unknown territory for us. So it's very interesting to hear. I didn't know that they actually built them themselves to help with their own selection process. I sort of thought it was just basically crowdfunded and sourced, kind of all the way. So interesting to hear that there is some kind of selection and curating of those processes based off of design criteria. So maybe not necessarily a surprise, but again, something I wasn't aware of before you wrote in.
All right, West, let's see if I can do this better than the intro. And that is a wrap of another episode of AFOLs Welcome. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe and leave us a review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, or wherever you're listening to the show. If you would like to write the podcast, please email us at afolswelcome@gmail.com or follow us on Instagram at AFOLs Welcome. Thank you for listening, and we will catch you on the next one.